Hey everybody, we are back. John Delarose here, delarose.com. That's DELARROZ.com. And you can roll over there and get a free PDF of my graphic novel Flying Sparks, which features an awesome female superhero. So if you enjoy Birds of Prey by Chuck Dixon, you will definitely like that. So go scoop that up for free. All right, this is Birds of Prey Volume 2. And DC made these nice semi-thick trades out of these for a little bit here. It covers the Birds of Prey 1 through 11, Birds of Prey Ravens #1. And it's by Chuck Dixon for the most part, Greg Land, Chuck Dixon for the whole part, Greg Land for the most part, and Drew Garachi, hopefully I pronounced his name right. He's the inker. He's a friend of mine too, as a full disclaimer here. All right. And we started going through this volume after reading the first, which was a lot of fun. Chuck really developed something cool here, and he continues it. Greg Land's art is fantastic. This does start, I should say, with the Birds of Prey series, issue #1. So the miniseries and little one-shots were pretty successful, I guess, so they gave it its own series. And we basically got Dinah and Babs, or Barbara Gordon, who are working together, and it's just them at this point. And Dinah's going off into these sort of foreign countries where there's power vacuums going on and checking things out. You can see the nice art, beautiful art by Greg Land, and nice thick inks that outline the characters and provide really good definition on everything. There's a conspiracy going on where there's somebody hacking into the Pentagon. They're checking into things. And it's getting closer and closer to Barbara Gordon as it happens. There's also a background character who's called Beeb. And apparently he is just talking to Barbara Gordon through the computer and trying to get closer to her through this. Now, Dinah finds out that the drug lord is collecting body parts and basically has this slave ring operation going on. Oh, no. And they take him. They are starting to capture her by the end of the first issue. All right, so it continues on, and beautiful, this beautiful dynamic splash right here for some action right at the beginning of the issue. Dinah gets kidnapped, and this is an old Barbara Gordon boyfriend who helps with this situation to try to get them out. She gets kidnapped anyway and put in with some other pretty gals in the little slave quarters there. And there's this costume character who goes after them and creates this sort of like, what is it? What you want to call it? The most dangerous game situation where they're hunting the people. Very nicely drawn dogs. Animals are always harder to draw because they don't get drawn as much. So you can tell good artists when you see this. And again, you can look at Drew's shading here, which makes everything all the better. Art's hyper consistent through this, since it's mostly one artist and one writer, so it's really nicely done. Just absolutely gorgeous to look at, and just pure action all the way. Gives you a little Sheena of the Jungle look right there almost. Nice stuff. We get a one-shot in here, and this is the Birds of Prey Ravens. Now, these are some female characters who show up later in the series, and that's why this is in here, because it kind of reintroduces these characters as they're hitting something else. It has nothing to do with the Barbara Gordon and Dinah storyline as she escaped from that jungle right there. But again, we get another jungle country power vacuum. The art's not quite as good through this. I think it's partially the coloring is a little on the flat side. And we get an introduction to them. So a weird shot there, but then you learn about them a little bit later on as it comes out here. So we have this character who's like Cobra Commander or something like that, and you see those three characters going after him, and it was just a test by him because he wanted to show that, you know, they could actually get through his forces or whatnot. Back to Barbara and Dinah. Dinah goes on vacation to Minnesota. And this little geeky guy tells her about this like Loch Ness Monster horror story that's going on. She just kind of hangs out. Meanwhile, these other gals show up on behalf of the evil dude we just met. And there actually is a monster in the lake. Dun, dun, dun. So this is a really fun one. It takes a very drastic different turn because we were in such a real-world drug-busting game in the first arc, and now we're into some really strange supernatural stuff going on in this arc. And there's a Soviet deal that's crashed here. Satellite, that is. And everyone's kind of going after it while Dinah's figuring out what is going on. All right. Lots of cool art. And we go through. And this arc lasts a little bit. We get Batman. I think there's a little bit going on here. We've been seeing Barbara being spied on for a few issues, and it's revealed that it's actually Batman here. So, nice stuff. She kind of comes into her own. And we learn that these Cobra people and this whole Soviet satellite has sent people back in time into the dinosaur era. So very, very odd. And they get trapped there. And we get a weird prologue where there's this gal who's getting manipulated by a bad dude. All right. So we have new penciling by Peter Krause at this point. He seems to kind of operate in the similar style to Greg Land. A little different. Maybe a little more on the touch on the realism here. But the inks look nice and consistent like they did before because you got that same outlining, that thick outlining that Drew does on all the characters. Really make them pop out of the page compared to everything else. All right. And here, Dinah is rescuing some war criminal because he's not getting a fair trial. And so she's dealing with having to with the internal of I'm having to rescue a guy who's bad, and I know he's bad, but, these people are not doing things the right way sort of situation. And by the end of it, she finds out that he actually sacrificed himself for her. So pretty interesting. So that was just a fill-in issue. I guess a little filler. That's why they had a different artist. Before Greg Land comes back, and we kind of get another filler issue in some ways, because we're addressing Nightwing at this point. And we have this whole back in the past where Nightwing went on an extra date with Barbara, and Barbara kind of went for it again. Beautiful art. Greg Land is just probably a cut above here. And takes him for a spin, and she kind of dumps him at the end. Womp womp. Poor Nightwing. What can you do? Poor Nightwing. And then we've got this group, the Iron Brigade, who comes after Dinah at this point. And it's a pretty funny running gag. They're working for a bad dude, and Dinah keeps running after them, breaks into this complex to rescue a guy. Now, my one problem with this run, I'm going to get into this. There's so many characters who are treated like I'm supposed to know who they are. Those other Birds of Prey people who showed up for a bit. This background guy who was helping, who was Barbara's old boyfriend. And now there's this character, I guess she gets into this, and she rescues a clone of Booster Gold, or Guy Gardner. I'm sorry, not Booster Gold. Whoops, wrong guy. He's a Green Lantern, but he's one of the side Green Lanterns. So if you don't really know, I guess he's the Warrior at this point, which I didn't even know, because I wasn't really following the DC universe at this point. But a lot of characters is they act like you're supposed to know them, and I just don't. So it does hurt the stories a little bit on that regard. Now this Iron Brigade keeps attacking. They keep getting their butts kicked every single time, and they're always like, this time we're going to do it. A little bit. We get cheesecake guy. We get ultimate cheesecake pin up here with Guy Gardner cheesecake for the ladies. Little smoke there, and of course the pose. I love this kind of stuff in comics. It's pretty funny. All right. But it's all beautiful to look at, and the storyline, even without really knowing a ton about these characters going in, you kind of learn what's going on. The White House is dealing with a situation because they know there's a diplomatic incident going on with this breakout, and Barbara's dealing with her little hacker person who's trying to talk to her, and Guy Gardner is kind of just taking down everything at this point. So some fun action. He breaks out the Iron... Again, every issue starts out with this. We are the Iron Brigade, the elite of the elite. They get their butts kicked. So funny. Please don't kill us. This was the punchline. So if you saw the 3 preceding, that did a lot for you. And Dinah has to convince this Guy Gardner clone basically to just stand down and back off, and he refuses. And we get in some extra issues, and Deus Ex Machina, Superman shows up, throws one punch. I hope you can handle this from here on out. And this just made me laugh, especially the way his head is angled up here so cheesily with this like corny smile. It was a good ending to this. And that ends that. Because you always wonder where those other DC heroes are when, you know, the tough times get rough and you've got a girl who really doesn't have any powers. It's like, why doesn't Superman come and hang out or whatever? And he did. He made some comment about how he's been busy or whatnot, of course. But very thoroughly fun, just tons of action. I think reading Volume 1 helps prior to this, but, you know, it works pretty well on its own also. So this is Quality Comics, and I know there's a 3rd volume, and then I know Chuck's run continues, and they have not reprinted a 4th volume, because this is DC's collected editions, and I have to complain about them every time I go through one of these, because they just never fulfill on their promises, and it makes me very upset, because I want to see the whole run, the whole collection. Omnibus would be great, but, you know, finish off what she already printed, too. That would be nice. This is 8.5 out of 10, which on my scale I usually say 7 is average. So if it's 8, I really enjoyed it, and this is getting closer to 9, where I'm would be singing its praises over and over and doing multiple rereads of it. Not quite there, just because of the character issue which I mentioned, which I just don't know who half these characters are. Maybe I'll get to know them a little better in Volume 3. Hit that like and subscribe button, and I will be back with more reviews soon.